Traveling is awesome. It's the #1 thing I'd recommend for anybody out there while they're young.
Sumimasen. Can I ask a question? Anita no sukina anime wa nan desu ka?
撮影ダメなんですよ。
God is not here.
Even if that traveling is within your own country or state to a town you've never been to, that being said, some people make it their mission to ruin the reputation of all other tourists visiting certain areas. Most of the time, this is due to a lack of cultural understanding, which is annoying, but it's bound to happen. I'd categorize this as people just not really knowing what's expected of them. What's worse than this is when people know the culture that they're visiting and choose to disrespect it for whatever reason.
I just gotta be careful to not disrespect the culture. Japan is all about the respect. Toyota, I choose you.
Nowadays, you can go somewhere, harass people on the street, exploit the local population, and generally just be a parasite, and not only make money from doing it, but become famous. Or infamous. The attention is on you either way. The post-pandemic world has left a hole for the most insufferable people to go abroad and do the most shameless things in exchange for attention. Even if that leads to them committing crimes, getting assaulted, and sometimes ending up in jail. It's all worth it for the clout, baby. So speaking of, let's talk about Logan Paul and Japan. I think Westerners become obsessed with Japan because it's a completely different culture than our own, yet not so different that it's completely unintelligible or hostile. It's kind of a Western country that still holds super traditional values, which is a very weird contrast. It's not super hostile like China or Saudi Arabia, but it's not super similar like North America or Western Europe. It's truly unique, which is why so many people are fascinated with Japanese culture, some maybe a bit too much. Which is why Japan is a gold mine for YouTube content. You can literally make a video called "I went to the bathroom in Japan" and get millions of views. If you want to see what anime girls' thighs taste like, you'd probably have to go to Japan, right? Wrong, you can go to gamersubs.gg and use code GHOSTGUM to try anime girl thigh. If you're lucky, you might get one with tentacles on it. It's my favorite flavor by far, at least as of right now. That's subject to change. Also, check out their Gamer Soups, actually good instant ramen. They've been a huge sponsor of this channel. Thank you so much, Gamer Subs. Now, if I made a video going around Los Angeles being a nuisance, nobody would care. That's a city made of garbage. If I do the same thing in Tokyo, bam, look at those views. People forget this was on trending when trending was still a thing. You probably all know the story, but basically Logan Paul went to Japan, acted like a complete ass, then recorded a dead man for content. Now, disregarding the whole filming a corpse thing, these videos are painfully unself-aware. He's going around acting like a moron because I somehow doubt he would try this in a place like Brazil. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, I think to these clout goblins, Japan has the perfect mix of interest and exploitability. You see, Logan Paul, knowingly or not, created a whole subgenre of Japanese dumbassery, where you have people going there because they know they can be a complete degenerate loser and get away with it. Not only that, people will get mad at them for doing it, inadvertently bringing attention to them, which you gotta realize that's all these people care about. They don't care about a reputation. The primest example of this is streamer Johnny Somal. You might have heard of this guy, but basically he's part of a wider subgenre of public nuisance streamers. Basically, they go in public, cause as much shit as possible, and film everyone's reactions.
All right, you and me, Central Park, tomorrow. Don't be late, motherfucker.
Alright. I hope he doesn't chase me because I don't want to fight him. Am I a pussy beta? Perhaps.
The reason he's the perfect example is because this man has claimed he will literally do anything for clout. So he went to Japan and did things such as sexually harass women and mention the Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bombs.
You know Hiroshima, Nagasaki. You know why you do this? Pearl Harbor. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. We destroy it.
Hilarious. Somehow I doubt he'd do the same thing in Israel and mention another World War II tragedy. God, I hope I'm not predicting the future here, because with these new streamers, man, who knows? I know I'm not alone in finding these clips hard to sit through. It's just so fucking embarrassing. Imagine your parents watching you do this. What's kind of surprising is this guy didn't see any consequences for the longest time until he barked up the wrong tree, getting knocked out cold for a second. It became almost a trend for people to stream snipe this guy and just assault him. Call it schadenfreude, but there's something so satisfying about this guy getting his shit rocked. Despite this, it didn't stop his degeneracy at all. In fact, it ramped it up. He kept being a parasite until he decided to break into a construction site, for which he was arrested, obviously. All of which was caught on camera, by the way. Despite this, he seemed like he had no problems being arrested because this was a big break for him. He'd gotten away with basically everything he'd done up until now. Look at all the international attention he was getting. A little arrest for public disturbance wouldn't be a big deal, right? What he failed to realize is Japanese law is no joke. Sure, they arrested him for breaking into a construction site, which I guess isn't that bad, but it seems Japanese police had been building a case on him for a while. The details aren't known, but he's been dead quiet recently. No word on socials or anything, which for a leech like this guy probably means it's serious. Apparently the Japanese government is going to make an example out of him, which certainly would set a standard for these dickhead influencers going out there and causing shit. Because streamers like him are dime a dozen, which is why they're constantly trying to one-up each other by doing extreme things. Look at resident lunatic Vitali, who climbed the Egyptian pyramids and spent 5 days in prison because of it. Was it all worth it? Personally, I think it's classier to assault a random jogger while on drugs, but maybe that's just me. Or this guy who illegally took a train across Japan and got arrested for it. What a genius. This is good content. Now you might recognize this guy from this video where he went to Burundi and basically filmed some of the most poor people in the world. He got a lot of heat for the thumbnail, which was eventually changed. Basically the whole video, so you don't have to watch this garbage, is him going around the country being like, oh my god, it's so cheap here. This Malaka seemed shocked that poor people exist. This is another type of travel degeneracy where people will go to poor countries just to show how poor it is. Now there's a huge difference between people going to a poor country to document it and to exploit it. You see, this guy gets to go home after 100 hours. He gets to be safe. These Burundians have to live like this, so they end up just being a prop in his video, especially when he's going around saying how poor everything is and how cheap everything is. Like, dude, no shit. You went to the poorest country in the world. What do you expect? The whole idea of poverty tourism is a bit controversial. People have differing opinions on it. Some people say it's good because it contributes to the economy and raises awareness. Other people say it's treating humans like they're in a zoo. And regardless of where you stand on this, I think we can all agree that this guy doesn't care about raising awareness of poverty in Africa. Now, do people who partake in poverty tourism have the best intentions? Maybe not. But at the end of the day, they're helping people in need. And whether they intend or not, they're raising awareness about the conditions people live in. Even if it's for a completely self-interested reason, at least they're contributing something good. This can't be said for the next subject of our video, and possibly the most degenerate tourist you could ever find, sexpats. Sex tourism has been a thing for decades, but only recently has it become popular enough for people to make whole channels around it. You're telling me the guy with girl troubles just so happened to go to Thailand because he quote unquote likes the culture? Sure man, whatever you say. This is kind of similar to the poverty tourism where people from rich countries will go to poorer countries, typically in Southeast Asia or Eastern Europe, to basically flex their, by their own country standards, average wealth to people who earn less in hopes they'll get something more out of it. This goes as far as girls thinking they're going to marry these guys in hopes of getting a passport to find a way out of their country's economic state. It's basically just exploitation. And some of these guys will tell these girls that they're going to be their boyfriend only to use them for sex and leave the country. One of the excuses these people use is that the girls are just so beautiful in random Eastern European country or random Southeast Asian country. It's weird. These middle-aged bald dudes from the UK UK are never doing these things in countries like Sweden or Australia, almost like it has nothing to do with romance or the beauty of the women, and it's to exploit the value of their currency in exchange to satisfy their lustful urges. What a fucking gross sentence. Now, I'm 100% not saying that all relationships between these people are based upon sex and green cards. That's 100% not true. I also want to emphasize that just because someone does a video traveling to these countries doesn't mean they're there to exploit the people there. There are probably millions of foreign couples, one from a rich country, one from a poor country, both from poor countries, both from rich countries, etc., who are amazing together and genuinely love each other. But these guys are not that. They're purposefully misleading girls and promising them a better life, only to end up using them and bouncing. Even guys like Bald and Bankrupt have been accused of some stuff like this with some pretty damning evidence. I'm not gonna go into it here, but if you're interested, there's a Reddit thread and a really good YouTube video detailing all these allegations, and they're pretty damning. I'll leave the link in the description. Whether that's true or not, the guy said Germany needs their old leader back. Now, I've been talking about guys. I'm sick of talking about guys. I believe in equality, which is why we're gonna talk about some ladies who do the exact same thing. These British women go to Africa to do exactly what the guys are doing in Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe. There's a whole trend of old British women going to the Gambia to find young African men and basically use their stronger currency to exploit them for whatever they want and give these guys hope that maybe one day they'll be able to move back to the UK. It's gotten so bad in the Gambia that the tourism board literally had to ask British women to stop coming for sex, specifically British women. It's old white British dudes walking around with 20-year-old Thai girls and old white British women walking around with 20-year-old Gambian dudes. Modern love, I guess, as depressing as that is. But the best or worst example of this type of tourism is in a channel called Nomad TV. I found this guy years ago and I recently revisited his channel and nothing has changed. He's been doing the exact same thing for years. He's a Korean guy whose whole content repertoire involves sex tourism and it's just completely shameless. Here are some of the video titles. This is what it boils down to. This is the purest form of sex tourism. Not only is he doing it, but he's making money off doing it by getting millions of views of some of these videos. To wrap this up, I want to say travel. Get out there and do the shit you want to do. Maybe you'll find your passion, maybe you'll find your purpose, maybe you'll find true love. Just not doing any of this.